So it turns out this AHL thing might not be all that hard. Everything came up Colorado in this week's Eagles review. I waited a little bit longer on this video, so I have 2 weekends worth of Eagles games. There were 4 in total, and that is more of what I think I want to do with this series, more of a general overview of how the Eagles season is going with a few highlights thrown in as well. And these 4 games turned out pretty good. They played 2 games in San Antonio against the Avs ex-AHL team, the Rampage, and then the following weekend played 2 games against the Ontario Reign at home in Loveland. And they went 4-0, winning all 4 of those games. After starting the year 0-1-1, that's a fantastic turnaround and feels pretty good. The first 2 games were against the Rampage, and neither of them were incredibly exciting. The Rampage played just like I remembered they used to, really slow-paced, really low-event hockey, just not a ton going on. In fact, in the first game, neither team would even score a goal in the first 2 periods, and then in the third period, the Eagles would score 2 to the Rampage's 1 to pull out the win. The game winner in that one would be Logan O'Connor's first professional goal. You're going to see a clean win for the Eagles here off the face-off, and a dumped-out puck gets past the defender at the blue line, springing an O'Connor flying the zone. He has enough space to get in on the breakaway and makes a nice backhand shot to put in the goal. After a bit of a slow start to the season for O'Connor, this week he looked much better, producing offense at a good rate and picking up a number of points across these 4 games. He is someone that I interviewed this past weekend after the first game against the Reign. If you're on Burgundy Rainbow, just scroll down and you can see that interview. If you're not, I will link it in the description of the video. The Eagles made that first game against the Rampage pretty tough on themselves, taking a lot of penalties, but Pavel Francouz in his first AHL game would hold the fort fantastically in net for them. And that would quickly become a theme this week as we move further on here. The second game against the Rampage had a bit more pace and better flow to it. The Eagles took many less penalties than they did in the first game, and they looked a lot better offensively. Both teams really were generating significantly more opportunities. The Rampage would get on the board in the first period, and it would be 1-0 at the start of the second, but we were finally starting to see the Eagles offense click into gear now, and they started getting a number of quality chances that they were capitalizing on. J.C. Beaudin would knock in a goal to tie the game early in the second, and then it would take a 5-on-3 for the Eagles power play to finally notch a goal, but they would manage to get it in the back of the net thanks to a number of vets. Warsofsky has the puck up at the far point. He works it down to Agazino in the far corner, who rifles a pass perfectly across the top of the crease to Kosmachuk waiting on the near side circle, who has an open net to throw it into. Thanks to Pavel Francouz, the Eagles would keep that 1-goal lead until the end of the second, and then early in the third, Nicholas Milosh would score his second goal of the season to pad the Eagles' lead to 2. From there, that third period was one of the best the Eagles have played so far this season. Despite being the team leading by 2, they really controlled play very well and stayed out of the box, creating a pretty easy win down the stretch for themselves. So back-to-back wins on the road for your first 2 AHL wins of the season is a great way to start, and then the following weekend things would only get better. Eagles would dominate the first period at home against the Reign, scoring 4 goals, including this pretty one from J.C. Beaudin. After helping dig a puck out of the corner in his own zone, Mason Geertsen picks up the puck and JC springs himself as the first forward up the ice. Mason hits him, creating a 2-on-1 situation. Beaudin hits the top of the circle and just rips one top corner. Eagles really wouldn't look back from there either. They would add 2 more goals in the second period to go up 6-0. The final would end up being 6-2 as the Reign would pick up a couple of cheap goals a bit later, but still an easy victory for the Eagles. And the best thing about this game was most of the scoring came from the prospects. Mason Geertsen had a 3-point night. AJ Greer had a 3-point night. JC Beaudin scored 2 goals. Logan O'Connor had a 2-point night. So a bunch of these young guys getting on the scoreboard regularly. Not only that, but the Eagles added another 2 power play goals in this game, getting those special teams starting to work here, and that's very important as the season progresses on. One thing I did notice about the Reign is they take a ton of penalties and are constantly looking to goon it up. In both of these games, they were looking for fights at every opportunity and kind of ended up burying themselves by taking so many penalties. The Eagles got roped into it at times, but did a good job of taking less penalties than the Reign did. The fourth and final game, the second one against the Reign for the Eagles, was actually, I think, one of the Eagles' most complete games of the season so far, even though it wasn't as easy as the first one against the Reign. The Eagles controlled the game all the way through, outshooting the Reign 44-25. The first two periods of the game, the Reign didn't even really get any quality chances. The Eagles would score the first goal of the game, J.C. Beaudain's fourth of the season late in the first. He now leads the Eagles in goals. Really nice to see him coming along after playing a lot with the Eagles in the ECHL last year. Early in the second, the Eagles would take a 2-goal lead off of a power play goal from Ty Lewis, his first professional goal. It was a shot from out high and wide, not the prettiest one. It ended up deflecting in off of a defenseman's stick, but hey, you'll take it however you can get it. Up 2-0 at the start of the third, the Eagles would relinquish that lead, giving up 2 goals in a row to Ontario. There really aren't many players I can knock for having a bad week here, but Anton Lindholm was one of them. He was responsible for both of those goals defensively. Thankfully, the Eagles had another trick up their sleeve with Martin Kaut registering his first AHL goal. First of all, a good play by AJ Greer and Andrew Agozzino along the boards to win this puck battle. It comes down to Josh Dickinson a bit off screen near the blue line, who feeds Kaut perfectly at the center of the ice. Kaut doesn't even get that deep into the zone. He's ready to launch a wrister right here. He just lets it go and beats the goalie clean. The Eagles would add another critical goal off of a very nice play from AJ Greer to feed Scott Kosmachuk, and then the Reign would add a goal and the Eagles would end up dumping one into the empty net to get their 4th straight win. Some of the high point players for this week, I already mentioned J.C. Beaudain with 4 goals on the season leading the Eagles, and Logan O'Connor a bit as well, finding his offense this week. But you also had AJ Greer. He was a bit quiet about it, but he now has a 3-game point streak and picked up 6 points this week. He currently leads the Eagles in points and looks like he's just about ready to get a call-up if the opportunity arises. Obviously, a number of players scoring their first AHL goals is also a nice capper to that, and you even had the veterans coming up in some clutch situations, which is nice to see and a good backer to this good play from the prospects. But the real number one star of this week has to be Pavel Francouz. His first 4 starts in the AHL, and he wins them all. Not only that, but of all goalies in the AHL, with more than at least 1 start, he has the best goals against average at 1.75 and the second best save percentage at .944. Those are some ridiculous numbers, and for a guy coming over from the KHL, I got to talk to him a little bit about the differences in the AHL, and he seems to really enjoy it here. Once again, you can read more about that down below. The one area where I really do think the Eagles could still improve is defensively. I already mentioned Anton Lindholm, but there were other pairs and other players that struggled at times to hold the fort. Without Pavel Francouz behind them, they probably don't win all 4 of these games because of defensive lapses. But that's a minor nitpick. When you win 4 games straight, it's nothing but all good. This week for the Eagles has made me more confident in them than I have ever been for any Avalanche affiliate in the AHL since I started following the league. This team looks legit. That is the end of this weekly review. Thank you for watching. I'm Rudo3, and it's a good time to be a Colorado hockey fan.